Ladies and gentlemen, we are right in the thick of it when it comes to the big AAA launches of the year. This week was absolutely massive, with Battlefield 6 getting its Battle Royale, with Arc Raiders getting its big release, and then news for Call of Duty hitting, well, an interesting turn. But before we get into that, do you ever sit there and wonder, is humanity absolutely screwed?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, I know you. Just wait till you hear these ones.
Does it have anything to do with
one of
food?
them has to do with food.
Okay, can we start with that one?
We'll get there.
Okay, fine.
First things first. I know this is going to sound ridiculous and completely unbelievable, but butt breathing is now a thing. They are now gone into testing to be able to breathe through your butt. Now, some of you may not know, but I used to be a paramedic and I actually did some research on this. And basically, yeah, you can absorb oxygen through your intestines. So people who have lung issues, they are testing this for a future way for, people to actually breathe and stay alive. And CPR is about to get really, really weird. Speaking of weird, aura farming has now been added into Fortnite along with the Simpsons update. So you can be now aura farming on Springfield in Fortnite. But it doesn't end there, because as we get to the food news, things are getting weird. We're getting to that time of the year where family gets to get back together, and Oreo wanted to get in on it by introducing Thanksgiving flavored Oreos. Now, some of these make a little bit of sense, like cranberry, but when you get into the stuffing and turkey dinner flavored Oreos, I don't know what we're doing anymore. But the one thing I do know that we're doing is going over all of the video game news in this show. Welcome to the Weekly Reload. Let's start out with the thing that it seems like we've been starting out with every single week, and that is Xbox. We got news in regards to Xbox and the revenue for fiscal year 26 quarter one. So it ended on September 30th, and as we found out, the games as a service revenue was up 1%, which seems really measly, but is kind of what Xbox is going for. As long as that number is going up, they're happy. However, hardware sales were down 29% year over year, meaning that gaming revenue was down 2% year over year. But the thing is we are just getting into one of the bigger launches for Xbox, and that is when Black Ops 7 comes out in about 2 weeks, or maybe it's 2 weeks. We'll get into that in a second. But some other numbers that were put out is overall Microsoft reached $77.7 billion in revenue just for the quarter, bringing in a net income of over $27.7 billion, up 18% and 12% year over year, respectively. So in other words, Microsoft is making a ton more money. However, gaming isn't necessarily the area that they're doing it, but this is what they expected. Now, in this relation to Call of Duty, the Ghost of Hope put out a tweet where he basically explains that a lot of Call of Duty developers are against this price increase that they have done with Game Pass. And this price increase was one of the reasons why they saw that 1% increase in revenue in that section in that quarter. However, here's the thing. In relation to Call of Duty, some developers are against it, but others are saying it's actually giving Call of Duty some breathing room. You see, a lot of developers make their money off of bonuses, and bonuses come from sales. And when it comes to Call of Duty, the sales numbers were actually hurt by about $300 million last year because of Game Pass. Now, by increasing the Game Pass price, this is now helping out with some of those developers' bonuses. Now, I know it's hard to sit there and be like, oh, well, these guys need bonuses, but when their income is strictly based off of those bonuses, it's interesting when Xbox was taking that revenue for themselves and not giving it back to the developers, but apparently now they are, and it's making people a little bit more comfortable with developing under those conditions, which might mean it brings in some more talented devs, making Call of Duty better in the long run. However, that's a big might mean that. Now, speaking of Call of Duty, when it comes to news for COD this week, we got a new dev talk for progression, for prestiging, for challenges, things along those lines. And lo and behold, most of what we saw in this is same sort of prestige system that we saw in Black Ops 6. They talked about weapon leveling being quicker than it was in the beta, and all more or less good news, except for one thing. They also showed off a new zombies HUD that they have introduced, which was supposed to be this next big thing for zombies to increase immersion. And lo and behold, people didn't love it. They said they just added purple to it and it really wasn't that special. Now, in other news, the launch of this game is set to come out on the 14th of November. However, the game was added to the PlayStation 4 database, and in a tweet from PlayStation Size, which basically goes over and documents the updates, how big they are, when they're coming out, it states that the game is going to be coming out for campaign and zombies on the 10th, and then the multiplayer on the 17th. None of those numbers being right, which led to speculation that maybe once again this year, we might be getting campaign early access. Now, none of that is confirmed, but what is confirmed is with the Call of Duty movie, we now know who is directing it and who is writing it. It turns out Taylor Sheridan, the person behind Yellowstone, Tulsa King, all of these massive TV shows, is going to be the writer for the Call of Duty movie, which is a giant W. He's also the person behind Sicario, which was inspiring of a mission in Modern Warfare 2, which I think might give us our setting somewhere in Mexico dealing with the drug cartel. The other interesting thing is the director of Peter Berg, who is the director and producer of Lone Survivor, and in a lot of his movies he has Mark Wahlberg. So we might have a movie taking place in Mexico with Mark Wahlberg being the star. I just don't know who exactly he would play. Now, one thing that's eluded the news for the last little while with launch season going on is GTA 6. It is still coming, and it's said that it's still coming in 2026. Well, some news is that both in Canada and the UK, a bunch of people, about 30 employees, were laid off at Rockstar. Now, when this was first reported, it came across that they were fired for gross misconduct. But lo and behold, later down the road, it turned out that some of these employees were working behind the scenes to create a union at Rockstar. Apparently Rockstar wasn't a plan of that, so the union busters came in and just fired everyone, which honestly is pretty sketchy, but we don't know. I'm sure it's being investigated. Just Rockstar and GTA 6 have been out of the news, so I thought I would throw that one in there. Now, moving into the things that came out this week, we had the Battlefield Battle Royale, aka Battlefield REDSEC. Now, this is a part of Battlefield 6, but it is free to play. And the player numbers went pretty big. It seems as though they're remaining steady above 400,000 players pretty frequently, which is a huge number on Steam. And it appears as though the Battle Royale did help out, because before it came out, they were sitting around 300,000. So the numbers are holding up. But what isn't is the review scores. As it turns out, once the Battle Royale was released, a lot of people became pretty disgruntled with the game, felt as though they were forced to go into Battle Royale because some of the challenges for the Battle Pass revolved around Battle Royale. So they then put out an update where you can switch out your challenges day over day so you don't have to deal with the Battle Royale challenges. Other people were upset because, well, oddly, because the Battle Royale was good. I know that sounds ridiculous, but because it was so good, they said that it took away from the dev time of the multiplayer, which meant that the game could have actually been better, when in reality, it's a completely different studio working on the Battle Royale than the multiplayer. So it's kind of just people getting their wires crossed for the most part. The other thing that was in the news for Battle Royale and Battlefield was the skin. The blue skin that you are seeing here, people got mad because they said it was taking the immersion out of the game. Well, without any word or talking about it, they removed the skin, seemingly listened to everyone in the community and seemingly doing what everyone wants. Yet people were still upset because now the skin was gone. The lesson of the matter is here, no one's ever going to be happy. That's what we can take away from this news. Now, moving on to the other game that came out this week, Arc Raiders. Now, as far as Arc Raider goes, it is sitting at pretty decent reviews as of right now on Metacritic, coming in at about an 8.8, 8.7. And really, the moral of the story behind these reviews is that there are two camps of people. People who like extraction shooters really like Arc Raiders. They said it's one of the best extraction shooters. Some people say they wish it was a first-person shooter, but it's not. And then the other camp of people who don't like the game and are giving it bad reviews are predominantly just because those people do not like extraction shooters. That's essentially what it comes down to. But as far as the players goes, it has incredibly good numbers. As of recording this, we are sitting at 286,863. And as I record this, this is the all-time high for the game, which means throughout this weekend, it is possible that they break that 300,000 concurrent player mark, which if you don't know why that's interesting, right now, as of recording this, it's above PUBG. It is right below Battlefield, making it the 4th most played game on Steam, which is absolutely insane. Those people over at Embark made a fantastic game. I am truly loving it. And as of right now, they have announced that there is more content coming out in November, more content coming out in December, and seemingly they're going to be putting an update out every single month, adding in new content, new loot, new bosses. And let's just say Arc Raiders is absolutely killing it. Speaking of absolutely killing it, a game that came out this week is Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. It is sitting at an 85 on OpenCritic, and 95% of critics are recommending it. Basically, the game was awesome to begin with. They made it and gave it a facelift, and lo and behold, it is still great once again. Now, the one that I'm skeptical of is the game that is coming out this week. On November the 6th, we have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Now, this is a Zelda game. However, it is not a Zelda game. It is a very different type of game, which is essentially like a hack and slash game where you play as various heroes from Hyrule, hence the name Hyrule Warriors. But it's not like you're not playing as Link, you're not like playing alongside, you are trying to take out Ganondorf. It's just a very different type of game, and I'm very curious how this one is going to be received, because to my knowledge, this is the first Zelda game, if you will, on Nintendo Switch 2. They're not getting like a mainline Zelda game as the first game on there, and I'm curious how people are going to react to that, if people are going to like it, what the reviews are going to say that, because pretty much every game that has come out on the Switch 2 at this point is like somewhere between like an 80 and 90% rating, very good, except for that one where you're like, it's like Rocket League but you're in a wheelchair. That one has really horrible reviews, but the rest of them really good. And that essentially brings us to an end of what is happening this week, except for one thing, and that's essentially the main game that is coming out this week, unless Call of Duty does get dropped early. The way that I see it is, if it does get dropped early, it's probably going to be like a campaign early access situation, and maybe it's on the 10th, like the PlayStation size tweet said, but we'll have to wait and see. That might happen this week, and if it does, it would probably be on the 7th, the Friday, if not then the 10th. So keep those dates in mind too. But that's the video game news for this week. If you enjoyed the video, it is always appreciated if you hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your video game news, these videos come out every single Sunday, so hit the subscribe button, turn notifications on. Thank you for watching, and until next time, peace.